President Trump made cracking down on crime a major focus of his agenda, even ordering the National Guard to show up to several major cities.
America, the United States is on pace for the largest single-year drop in murders the country has ever witnessed. Murders down 20%. New York City just recorded the lowest number of shooting incidents and shooting victims in record history. GDP is at 4.3%. Wages adjusted for inflation are rising. Gas prices are plummeting. But here's what's really shocking. The mainstream media is barely covering this. Why? Because it completely destroys their narrative that Trump's policies would cause chaos and economic collapse.
We do not ask permission from far-left Democrats before we deport illegal immigrants. We do the American people's business.
What is up, guys? Tyson DELACRUZ here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. Turns out when you actually deport criminals, lock up bad hombres, and enforce immigration law, crime conveniently goes down. Who would have possibly predicted that? Oh wait, everyone with common sense did, and now the numbers are proving it. Let's start with the crime numbers because they're absolutely staggering. According to the Real-Time Crime Index, which compiles data from more than 500 police departments around America, murders are down about 20%. Compared that to 2024. That's on pace for what would be the sharpest single-year drop in murders the country has ever seen. But it's just not murders. We're talking about motor vehicle thefts, aggravated assaults, and robberies all saw significant drops. Compare this to the same time last year. New York City specifically is seeing incredible results. For the first 11 months of 2025, NYC saw the fewest shooting incidents and shooting victims in record history. 652 shooting incidents and 812 shooting victims compared to the previous all-time lows of 696 and 826 set in 2018. And get this, for the month of November alone, murders were at the lowest level in record history with just 16 murders. 16 murders, you guys. There were 0 murders in all of Queens and Staten Island. 0. That is a fat goose egg. Murder was down 46.6% in November 2025 compared to November 2024. The subway system, which Democrats told us would become a war zone under Trump, is now the safest it's been in record history outside the pandemic years. Transit crime was down 24.8% in November, making it the safest November ever. This was the safest July, August, September, October, and November combined on the subway in record history. Now let me connect the dots that the mainstream media refuses to connect. Why is crime dropping so dramatically? Could it possibly have something to do with the fact that ICE is actually deporting criminals again instead of releasing them back into American communities? And guess what? When you remove violent criminals from American streets, violent crime coincidentally goes down. Shocking, I know.
In just a 3-month span, you had 8,700 arrests of violent criminals. You had 2,200 firearms seized off the streets permanently to safeguard our communities. You had 421 kilograms of fentanyl seized. Just to put that in perspective, that's enough to kill 55 million Americans alone.
These aren't random statistics. These are lives saved. These are crimes prevented. These are American families who are safer because the federal government is actually doing their job.
The people of Chicago wanted President Trump to come in. There have been people who have been begging the administration to get involved. And, you know, I listen to the voices of J.B. Pritzker, I listen to Brandon Johnson, and they sound so passionate. The unfortunate reality is they're passionate about the criminals, not the people who are U.S. citizens who've lived in Chicago and across Illinois for many years, whose lives have been changed because of violent crime. People like my family, when my brother was murdered. It is a disgrace that the leaders of Illinois and Chicago refuse to work with the administration when they need the help.
Now here's a story that should be front page news, but the media is barely covering it. Nearly 221,000 Americans have applied to work for ICE. Think about that number. 221,000 people want to join an agency that Democrats have spent years demonizing and calling for abolishing.
You would think that the staggering amount of violence against ICE special agents and deportation officers would decrease our recruiting, but it actually hasn't had that effect. I think what a lot of people want to do is they want to get into federal law enforcement. They want to work for a quality law enforcement agency, and that's what we're seeing here in this. But, you know, it makes us feel better to know the fact that we have so many people behind us that would still want to join ICE and join the ICE mission and be a law enforcement officer, even though they're getting demonized and attacked every day.
This tells you everything you need to know about where American people stand on immigration enforcement. While Democrat politicians and the media attack ICE, hundreds of thousands of Americans are lining up to join the agency. They see exactly what's happening in their communities, and they want to be part of the ultimate solution. And ICE is going to need those recruits because deportation operation is just getting started.
And so if you're in this country and you are conducting illegal criminal activity, what we want you to know is you either get out of the country or we've got a place for you.
Now let's talk about the economy, because while crime is plummeting, the economy is absolutely booming. And once again, the media doesn't want to talk about it because it destroys their narrative.
Gas prices are coming down, energy prices are coming down. How do you level the square for people who see good GDP numbers but don't feel it?
Look, I think that's all going to come out over the next couple of months when people go out and continue to buy gas, pay their light bills, get through the holiday season with their families. All these things are going to add up. And what it's going to present, my view, by first quarter next year is a healthy and growing economy.
Fingers crossed that's going to give the Federal Reserve more data to continue cutting rates, which will help people buy their first home or refinance their current home.
The economic growth numbers under President Trump's leadership are phenomenal. This is one of the reasons why he's back in the White House. If you remember his first term, the first 3 years, the economy was going great, actually. It really hit a speed bump because of COVID-19.
Of course.
So we're back at it again. The policies are back. You're seeing the economic growth back.
Mix that with higher productivity, and that is a recipe for success where the wealth effect will be felt by the American people.
And I drove by the local Costco. The gallon per gas down here in South Florida was $2.72 for regular, $3.39 for premium. I can't remember the last time I saw gas prices look like that.
And that's because of the supply side policy, not just on the economy, but also on energy. When you put those two things together, rising wages and falling energy costs, working families feel it in a strong way. Now, here's another brilliant move by the Trump administration that's absolutely getting results. The Department of Homeland Security is offering illegal hombres $3,000 to self-deport by the end of the year. Secretary Kristi Noem is calling it the best gift illegal immigrants can give themselves and their families this holiday season.
Secretary Noem is touting the end-of-the-year campaign, pushing a $3,000 bonus to go home for the holidays, saying it's the best gift illegal immigrants can give themselves and their families this holiday season.
And guess what? It's working. The Trump administration shut down Biden's CBP One app and relaunched it as CBP Home in March. Over 1.6 million people have already used the app to self-deport at the offer of $1,000 to get on out of here. Now they tripled it to $3,000, and they expect even more people to take advantage of it. For my illegal hombres, here's how it works. If you're here illegally and you haven't committed any serious crimes, you can use the app, fill out your biometric information, get quickly screened and vetted, and return to your home country. You receive a $3,000 stipend, and you get back in line to come here legally. A former Border Patrol chief explains it's like a get-out-of-jail-free card. If you self-deport, you don't have a deportation on your record. But if you wait to get arrested, you're going to get detained, removed, and have a deportation on your record. Self-deportation is the safest and most effective way to do it if you want to come back into the country legally. And here's the key. People are willing to go back, get back in line, because they know the days of crossing the porous border are over. We have the most secure border that we've seen in decades. So if you want to come to America, you're going to have to do it the right way. He also points out that securing the border has reduced the number of migrant deaths by 50% this year. So, get this, a secure border isn't just good for America, it's good for migrants who are being left in the desert to die by cartels. Now, here's a question I need to ask you guys. Why isn't the mainstream media covering any of this? We have the largest drop in murders in American history. We have record low crime in major cities. We have a booming economy with 4.3% GDP growth. We have rising wages and falling gas prices. We have over 220,000 Americans applying to work for ICE. We have 1.6 million people self-deporting. These are all objectively good news stories. So why is the media barely mentioning them? Because it destroys their narrative. For years, they told us that Trump's policies would cause chaos. They said mass deportations would crash the economy. They said aggressive law enforcement would lead to civil unrest. They said securing the border was impossible and immoral. And now every single one of those predictions have been proven wrong. Crime is down, economy is up, the border is secure, and Americans are safer and more prosperous.
All of this is going to help working families, independent voters, Republicans, Democrats, doesn't really matter your politics. It's going to help them feel that they have more wind in their personal sails to make ends meet or to do the next thing on their checklist.
But the lamestream media can't admit that Trump's policies are working because they spent years telling their audience that Trump was a threat to democracy, a fascist, and a danger to America. If suddenly they start reporting that crime is at historic lows and the economy is booming under Trump, their audience will realize that they've been lied to for years. Democrats have built their entire political identity around opposing Trump. So even if his policies are clearly working and making Americans safer and more prosperous, they won't admit it. They'd rather protect criminals and illegal immigrants than give Trump credit for absolutely anything. But most of the American people aren't stupid. They see their neighborhoods getting safer. They see their paychecks going further. They see gas prices falling, and they know exactly why it's happening. America, when murders drop 20% in a single year, that's not a coincidence. When New York City records the lowest shooting incidents in history, that's not luck. When GDP hits 4.3% while wages rise and gas prices fall, that's not an accident. That's what happens when you have a president who actually enforces the law and puts American citizens first. The media won't cover it because it destroys their narrative. Democrats won't acknowledge it because it proves Trump was right. But the numbers don't lie, and neither do American families who feel safer and more prosperous today than they were a year ago. The question isn't whether Trump's policies work. The numbers prove they do. The question is whether the media and the Democrats will ever admit that they were wrong. Don't hold your breath. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.